In a world where movies, music, business, and culture are all dominated by Nepo babies, I'm going to try to make my kids Nepo babies too. My husband and I might not have the funds to leave our kids a massive inheritance, but could we at least set them up for a good beginning in life? I'm going to meet with financial planners, money influencers, and bloggers, and even speak to a psychotherapist to figure out just how to get this done.
Money will always be a part of their life.
It might just be a new trend that our generation can start.
Could she do something stupid like that when she turns 18? Plus, I'll try to give my kids a head start in the video business. Come on, let's go. I'm going to meet up with Bobby Robel. She's a business journalist, a certified financial planner, and she's the author of the book, Launching Financial Grown-Ups. She agreed to give me some advice, not just on how to make my kids rich, but also financially responsible. So I work in financial media. I can't yet tell if I'll be able to create Nepo babies in that sense of the word, but I would love to still set them up for their financial future. What is your advice? Because maybe offering too much doesn't set them up to hustle in life, but offering too little, I don't want them to struggle either.
Well, I think a little struggle is okay because that's how you feel like you actually did something on your own and you're going to have that feeling of winning. I think it's really important that you do let them struggle to a meaningful extent.
When is it too early, or is there such a thing?
Well, there's no such thing as too early if a child expresses interest. If you have a very young child who's asking questions, Mom, Dad, how did money come out of that machine, right? Or how did you pay for that with your phone? Is there money in your phone? Well, you can sort of start to explain in an age-appropriate way if there's that curiosity. But you also want to make sure you do it in an appropriate way that doesn't create anxiety or stress for a child. So one way not to introduce children to money is, let's say you're in a store and they say that they want something. Especially with a young child, you don't want to say, no, we can't afford that, because that's going to create a negative feeling about money right from the start. What you can say is that the best use of our money right now? You don't want to create anxiety or stress regarding money for your children, but you do want to create motivation, and you do want them to understand that money does matter. And a lot of parents will say, well, money doesn't matter, all that matters is love. But money does matter, because if you need braces, we need to have enough money that we can get you braces or whatever you need, or to buy the food in the grocery store and so on. And you can say, if we stick to a certain budget on certain things that we spend money on, we'll have more money to invest and save. And they might say, well, what does that mean? And then you open up that conversation.
In researching this video, I've been watching a ton of content by parenting experts and influencers. One interesting approach I've come across is treating them like little adults, right down to making them pay bills.
There seems to be a debate among parents on whether or not you should pay your kids for chores.
I built a video game that teaches kids financial literacy, and it's finally done.
If your kid blows their money 5 seconds after they get it, this is for you.
Samantha Bird is an influencer whose video about charging kids utilities went viral.
We charge them each $1 for rent, $1 for groceries, and $1 for utilities on the first of each month.
She has a system that teaches kids how to spend, save, and give responsibly, and started her kids as young as 6 years old.
I have a system for teaching kids about money, and it's really super simple. Let me walk you through it. Every week, my kids get their allowance. It's $6 from chores that they do around the house, and then we give them a budget sheet. We help them budget it out between different categories: investing, spending, giving, saving, and expenses. I like to have them put money toward their future, so investing or saving, before they do anything else, because I want them to get in the habit of doing that. And then after they decide what's in each category, then they put the cash in their cash envelope wallets. They write in the balances, whether it's a deposit or withdrawal, and then they update any savings logs. It's super, super simple, I promise.
Even though my kids are a little younger, I decided to try some of her techniques with them. So we did the what I'm saving for exercise. My son said he wants a drum, which seems perfectly reasonable. But my daughter said she's saving for a dinosaur, which seems a little less practical.
Actually, did you know that in 2007, Nepo baby Nicolas Cage bought a Tyrannosaurus skull for $276,000? So with careful planning, it's technically possible.
Well, I don't have $250,000 laying around, so if that's what she really wants, she's on her own. Lucky for her, I've been seeing a lot of content online about another hack for kids to get some cash: putting them on the payroll. So how does that work exactly, putting one's kids on the payroll?
So you can pay your children if they are doing legitimate business for you. That works. And then you have earned income. And with earned income, that's kind of where the magic happens. Because if they have legitimate earned income, you can then start using that income for things like funding a Roth IRA, which can really build over the years.
Here's how paying my children could work. If I have my own business, even if it's a side hustle or if we own a rental property, we can pay our kids to work for us. And they can earn up to a specific amount without paying any tax on it. In 2025, that number is $15,000. Now, we could always pay them more, and they'll only owe taxes on anything over that initial $15,000. Also, we could deduct their salaries from our business income as an expense, so this would be a true win-win. I work in video production, so I thought I would hire my kids to film some of these scenes, and I think it's going pretty well.
Say cheese.
Cheese! There are a couple of things to be aware of. First, they need to be doing actual work. No one will believe that your 12-year-old is your chief financial officer, but they could legitimately help cleaning the office, answering phones, or creating photos and videos for your company website. Second, the salary they're earning should be reasonable for the kind of work they're doing. So they can't earn $15,000 for a single day of stuffing envelopes. I'm gonna pay them $30 an hour, which might seem like a lot, but it's way cheaper than Kinga.
Oh no!
If we were to do this 5 times per month, they'd earn about $7,000 per year. We could then put that money into a Roth IRA, and any investment we make with that will grow tax-free. So if we start maxing out the Roths right away, and that grows at an average 7% per year, they'll each have almost $200,000 invested at age 18. Perfect.
I'd be careful there. I think that if you were to get audited, that might be a little bit questionable, especially with camera technology these days. The truth is that that is something where you could simply put a camera on a tripod and film yourself. But what you don't want is you don't want the IRS visiting you at all.
I guess hiring my kids as videographers at the age of 3 was a little too ambitious. But once they're older, I could start paying them for age-appropriate, legitimate tasks. In the meantime, I found another way to set them up. I could just give them the money and use it to fund custodial investment accounts where we'd open brokerage accounts for each child and manage investments like stocks and bonds for them until they turn 18. But to do that, we need to come up with the money. And while we can afford a certain amount each week from our paychecks, I was thinking maybe we could also learn to spend a little less and use those savings to jumpstart our kids' accounts.
Hi! How are
Ellie.
you?
So nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming.
Becca and Dan are lifestyle bloggers who promised they could teach me to spend almost nothing on stuff for the kids.
I've pretty much bought 0 baby clothes for both of my children to date. Tutus and other tutus and swimwear and clothes for all seasons. So we've gotten 2 free cribs and they're both great brands. When we go to the pediatrician, you'll find that there's a lot of different samples that they might give away.
These are almost $30 each.
Wow!
These are so expensive.
I didn't even know that. We use maps as all of our artwork. We just pulled them out of like my dad's collection of maps and it was all free.
So your dad collected maps.
It wasn't even a collection, he used them.
He used them.
Oh, he actually used them to go places.
Yeah.
How much money do you estimate you've saved by buying nothing since your kids were born?
Thousands of dollars. And when I see the prices on those types of toys, I think, well, I'm really just not gonna spend my money on it because we want to put our money where there's going to be a lot of value. And for us, that's not really like toys and clothes. We want to be putting our money toward use for education or building wealth in the future. One of the things that I'm wrapped up in right now is how to start teaching your kids about finances when they are very young. So we've given her these fake old credit cards that she keeps in her toy kitchen to show her that this is how you can start learning about money and finances. And she can go to her little grocery store. And so she checks out and we play store. And that's how our daughter is learning about like real life situations. She's only 2.5, so we're very proud of her.
She has good credit, I assume.
Yeah, she does. She does have good credit. She's an authorized user on a credit card that we opened up the month she was born so that she could start accruing good credit and be set up for life in addition to the other investments that we're setting up for her. And she's not even 3 yet. I do want to show you Buy Nothing. Buy Nothing is a Facebook group that is localized, so people can post something and it has to be totally for free. Anything as valuable as a TV or anything as invaluable as some bananas that are about to expire and go bad. Grill grates, car seats, I mean, you name it, people are giving it away for free, and it's really just up to who wants to claim it first. You can also post that you're looking for something. You can post an ISO, that means in search of. And so I gave a little ditty and I said, I'm looking for size large of a sleep sack like this. Does anyone have one that we can borrow for the season, or does anyone have one to offload? There is just like a continual cycle of giving and getting. And this was the day I posted, hey, I'm looking for this exact thing. Does anyone have it for me to borrow? And someone nice enough said, I have it for you to have. And so lucky me, we wound up with, there it is, it's right there. 11 million people around the world are engaged in this Buy Nothing movement where, you know, we're just trying to help out the world by putting things at the end of their life to use again and giving things to people who will use them. All for free.
Apart from not buying stuff, what are some other ways that I can use to set my kids up for a good financial future?
One of the things that I've tried to do since both my kids are born is when we have birthday parties or when anyone in the family or even friends want to give a gift to our kids, I say, I have enough toys and diapers and books and clothing for them. It would be great if you could give us a financial gift and we will put it right into our children's brokerage, investments, or their education fund for the future.
And how do people react to that?
Yeah, a lot of older generations feel that they are showing their love for a child by giving something wrapped in wrapping paper. It has to come in a gift bag. But if you're raising a child who doesn't know or doesn't come to expect that they're going to receive a gift bag or something wrapped in a box on their birthday, it might just be a new trend that our generation can start, and we will make sure that our child knows that that is from a special person in their life and it's going toward their future.
So if we could cut out a few $1,000s in spending each year, add some money of our own, and maybe even ask for cash gifts for the kids, we could use that money to fund a custodial account. The most common types are called UTMA and UGMA. But how exactly would that work? Well, it's important to realize that these accounts lack most of the tax benefits of Roth IRAs. But we could fund them by using the federal gift tax exclusion, which currently allows us to give each child up to $19,000 per year, completely tax-free and exempt from gift tax. My husband, or anyone else for that matter, can also give the same amount, potentially bringing it up to $38,000 per year per child. So how much could my kids have in their custodial accounts by the time they turn 18? Well, if my husband and I put in the full $38,000 every year and we assume an average 7% market return, the account could grow to over $1 million by the time they're 18.
You thinking what I'm thinking?
$1 million does seem like a lot of responsibility to hand an 18-year-old. I decided to talk to someone about how to handle all of this. So I went to see Mary Breen, a psychotherapist, for a little advice. What are some of the dangers of an 18-year-old coming into a pile of money?
You can't expect your 18-year-old's brain to think like yours. So an 18-year-old brain is impulsive. An 18-year-old brain wants immediate reward. That's just merely biologically where they're at that point. The prefrontal cortex, which is basically the CEO of the brain, doesn't fully develop until about age 25. After age 25, your child is going to start making very different decisions, and they're going to be able to understand reward and consequence. And so you're still going to start having that conversation, preparing them for the responsibility, preparing them that money isn't necessarily about material items. Money is really about security. Money is really about freedom. Money is about opportunity, choice. It can be about generosity, and that money should really support values, and getting really clear on what the family's values are, what the parents' values are, and having the child start to think critically, what are my own values?
I did this exercise with my kids. They're 3 years old, and my daughter said she's saving for a dinosaur. So then I started thinking, if I set her up to be an Nepo baby, she could do something not wise like that when she turns 18.
I guess the question I would ask you is, if your daughter had the means where it wouldn't harm her financially to spend, almost $300,000 on a dinosaur head, and it gave her great pleasure, how would that make you feel?
Even if I were part of the 1%, it would bother me because I would think it's not a smart decision. And I guess that's control on my end, right? Like, how could you do that?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, right? There's two very different scenarios. One, they go into horrible debt to buy something that's nice and cool, but it's not actually going to help them. Another scenario, it actually doesn't harm them. And that, if you scale it down, they're going to make financial decisions you don't agree with. They're going to buy a house that's not the house you would buy. They're going to meet a partner that might not be the partner you choose. And so that's really a part of learning to let go as a parent. We have our children really 18 years, and those are precious years, and we can use all of our opportunities to love them as hard as we can, to teach them as best we can. We're not perfect. They're surely not perfect. They are their own people. And they are going to make decisions you're not going to agree with. So in advance, thinking about how are you going to navigate that as a person as you start to lose control over your babies.
So hold a spot in your practice for me in 15 years, because I might be back to discuss this.
Sure.
No matter who I'd spoken to, one thing had come up again and again: values. It got me thinking about what my own values are and how I want to teach them to my children. I think, above all else, I want my children to pursue their education, to figure out what makes them happy, and to be able to provide themselves with the life they want. One of the best ways to set them up for that is with a 529 college savings plan. You invest the money on your child's behalf, and as long as it's used for educational expenses, the returns are 100% tax-free. And it doesn't have to be necessarily used for tuition. It can also be used for textbooks or room and board or even internet service. So just how much can my little Nepo babies accrue with a 529? Well, each state sets its own limit on how much can be donated to a 529 plan. Most hover around $500,000. So if my husband and I were to contribute $19,000 per year for each kid, our kids could expect to have around $500,000 each by the time they turn 18. And this way they'd have to spend it the way I want. Or would they?
I mean, here's the truth. All of these accounts, you can often get to the money. You're just going to pay severe penalties. You can break open your IRA tomorrow, but you're going to pay a 10% penalty, right? And you're going to pay all the taxes and so on. But again, this goes back to why you want to have good relationships with your children, and you want to have this communication, and you want this to not be a conversation you have on their 18th birthday. You want this to be a continuing dialogue throughout their childhood and adolescence.
The reality is we live in a world where money makes a difference. That's unavoidable. So how can you make that something that they feel comfortable talking about, they feel educated about? They're not getting that education in school. So many people would benefit from understanding values, conversations, financial conversations, to be able to make smart, educated decisions that impact their future hugely, and then their own children's future, and so on. And a healthy money mindset is key, and you can be the one to foster that interest, to foster that understanding, and to foster that respect.
So in the end, it turns out that it's not entirely about how much you're able to give your children, but equipping them to do their best with whatever you're able to provide. And all the tools I learned about along the way make me realize that could be a lot more than I would have thought.